A lot of you might be wondering why I named my channel Going Off the Rails. Originally, it had to do with the caboose I built, turned my old camper into a caboose and named it Going Off the Rails. But more importantly, it describes me and my constant desire to invent and design and start new projects without finishing old projects. So what happens is I feel like I'm always going off the rails because I got something started and something that's never finished and dreaming about even something else in the future. So as many of you might have already seen my channel, you know I bought this camper. It's a Hallmark camper. The camper had everything in it. It even had a bow saw, toilet seat for outside. It had 3 batteries. It had extra propane, all the cooking appliances that you need. It even had paper towels and paper plates. And I'm going to make a quasi overland rig, basically something that'll take me to Alaska and off into the woods anywhere I want to go and get me back out, because I want to show you my next addition to the Cummins square body with camper. So on the front of the truck it had 2 big hooks that I've taken off, and the reason I took them off is I want to add a winch. I'm going to call it a portable removable winch, and I haven't tried it out yet, so I want to share with you how I built it, and then we're going to go out and see if it actually works. So I'm going to call this a budget build because I really didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on a winch. What I really want, I mean, I'm not building an off-road rig. It has a wheelbase of a school bus, but I wanted to build something that I could at least, you know, take back in the woods and go camping, in some places that, you know, you're not going to take a regular camper. And thus, that's why I'm not going to take the caboose up to Alaska, because I want to get back in the woods a little more, camp down by the river, and maybe go some places that I might actually get stuck. So that's why I wanted to build a winch, but I don't want to have a winch that's stuck on the front of the truck all the time. So that's when I decided to build me a portable winch. So what I did, I'll show you, is I went to Harbor Freight and I picked up this 12,000 pound ZXR 12,000, and it's the version with the standard cable and not the synthetic cable. And the reviews on it look pretty good as far as its power and durability. This is where you plug in the controller. It has a standard controller, but then I went and bought me one of these wireless controllers. I went to Amazon and picked up this license plate cover, because where I'm going to put it, it's right over the top of the license plate. When I have the winch on the truck, I'm going to take the license plate off and mount it on here. The parts that I built, so right here is where the tow hook, the 2 tow hooks that were on the truck, and they bolted through here into the frame, right at the front of the frame, and then they came down, and then they had a big hook. I've cut them off down here. I drilled a hole, and then I reached inside of here before I put the end cap on, and I welded all the way up against the side of this 4x4 by 3/16 square tubing. And I bolted them on the truck first, slid it up in there, and then tack welded them so that I've got a perfect fit. As you can see, they're slightly angled, but I can slide it up in there. And then I cut myself a hole for my receiver hitch. This is made to fit a receiver, a 2-inch receiver. Then on the ends, I've put these turnbuckles, and the reason for these, even though it'll mount standard with a hole right here, I put these on here because I just want to make sure it doesn't have any wobble or shake. And then here's my plate. I decided to make my own plate, and I'm just hoping I built it strong enough. We'll find out. So it starts out with some 2x2x1/4 wall square tubing, and then I have welded some plate material on, and then I reinforced it with some 1.5 by 3/16, welded it all up, the webbing. And then I wanted to make the front look a little bit aerodynamic. And then these right here is where the turnbuckles will attach to the front to keep it from wiggling. And then I've drilled my holes right here for my winch. Then as far as the power goes, I ordered me a cable. I wanted to be able to have a quick release mechanism. This cable came with another 30-footer that I put over here. I'm going to put this in the truck with my recovery bag, but it has a quick release too and jumper cable, so that once it's on the front of the truck, I can jump somebody without even having to open up the hood. So I have, it came with attachment spots for the battery. But then what I've done is I put some shrink wrap and then I electrical tape on it in a vulnerable spot where it goes down through the frame area of the truck. So we're going to put all this on and put the winch on and see how strong it might be and if it can handle pulling my big old heavy truck. My truck currently weighs a little over 8,000 pounds the way it is, so we'll see how this winch does. Alright, so I think I made this thing so it goes on pretty easy. Not only have I got 2 bolts that bolt into the frame on either side, but I've also drilled 2 holes in the frame and then some holes here for a longer bolt. So that means there'll be 6 bolts holding this on. And let's see if I can get this in. There, that was pretty easy. So next I need to route my cable from the battery down to where the winch is going to go. But first of all, I need to remove my filter. So I want to show you how I did my air intake on this. So my air intake's pretty simple. I just take this clamp off. And there it comes out. And I made this shield for my filter. The reason I did that is because a lot of the dirty air, there's my filter, and so it was sitting right here, and a lot of the dirty air coming off the fan was getting in it. So I wanted to pull air from underneath the behind the headlight, so I just simply made this shield out of aluminum, and it slides over my filter and then slides in there. So I got that off. Now I can route my cable. Lucky deal, but this cable that I bought already came with that connector on it and the battery terminals, and it was a perfect length. So I'm fishing it up around the frame and then attaching it to the bumper. Then I've routed it around my intercooler piping, and then I got lots of cavity here, and I'm going to bring it. I've got a fuse that goes here. Put it on this one and this one. Call it good. tell you one thing, she ain't light. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Woo. It fit. So I made this here in case I just want to put this in the receiver to pull myself out without the winch. Then I'll use this pin. And as I already surmised, it's probably going to shake a little bit. That's why I put the turnbuckles on there. I guess the question is that how long will those turnbuckles last? There's not a whole lot of pressure on them, but it sure makes that thing stable now. That's sweet. Yeah. Very nice. Now that I have her mounted, the next question will be, will it pull the truck or will it just yank itself right off the front of this truck? We'll see how good my engineering skills were when we give it a try. So I'll tie up all my loose ends and then we'll give it a shot. All right, so it's later in the day here, but I'm giving it its first test. I've already pulled it a couple times. It worked pretty well. It looks like I have to be careful about how it spools up. One thing I noticed that if you come from an angle, it starts to spool up on one side and then it jams. So you can't just pull the whole reel in from an angle. But I want to give you an idea about how it works as we spool it in going straight. So I've hooked up to one of my big trees and then I put one of my straps in the middle. And I put a whole bunch of weight pressure on it earlier and it did good. In fact, I'll show you right here. I put the parking brake on and pulled it uphill, and with the parking brake on, it definitely will pull uphill. Got enough power to do that. So I've got my new remote, so we'll see how it does. I did notice earlier it was starting to get warm, so I let it cool down. It's still pretty warm right now. So that could be an issue about cycling it a little bit. I don't know if you heard that RPMs change a little bit right there. I'm not sure what that was about. So we'll let it cool down and I'll turn you back on here in a minute. So I went back and read the directions again, which I'm not really good at reading directions, but it did say for every 45 seconds of winch time, you're supposed to give it 15 minutes of rest. I thought it was like 50-50, but it did warm up a bit, too much maybe. Hopefully I didn't destroy it. Let's just listen to it and see what it's doing. Definitely not even stressing it right now. Uh-oh, runaway
truck. See how far she goes.
I guess the conclusion to this is my plate and my bracket worked awesome, because when I was pulling with the parking brake on, I had no stress up front. So I think my weak point at this time is my winch. So hopefully I didn't ruin it by running the cycle time too long. Anyway, this is David with Going Off the Rails, and today we might have went off the rails. Thanks for joining me, and hit the subscribe button and give me a like if you would, and look for videos down the road. One of the next one is going to be putting a decibel meter on the truck and letting you know if I can quiet the truck down a little bit more by putting some sound deadening material in the truck. So give me a like and see you next time.